going to do, or what I'm planning to do tonight, is to talk to you folks about some tips on managing construction projects. If you have a property and you want to hire a contractor to do various work on it, this will go into what some tools are that you can use and some sage advice, I'd like to think it is anyway. So, any questions you have? This is going to be very, very informal, so just pop up with a question if it comes up.
Can I ask, since I only know what we talked about, walking from the back door to the front door, how does this come to be that we're here tonight? Are you from Alameda County? How did it get to be that you're here?
Well,
is this the only time?
I was trying to create an event for apartment owners in Alameda County to come hear about proactive property management tips and tricks. So I rented this space, invited these wonderful people here, a lot of other people, but these are the best people because they showed up. So I've done what I could, and I met her probably about 5 months ago. So you just happened to walk across $100 on the floor.
I worked for Pacific Fire Radio Bureau for 4.5 years as a junior draftsperson, so I got to see sprinkler buildings that were industrial. My favorite thing to ever see a plot plan was a sawmill, and why that? Because it makes all the other buildings in the past.
So that's why we're here.
So the other thing, what I guess I want to say at the very beginning is if you have a project or if you want to envision the people you want to work with or who you are going to work for, I really encourage visualization. It really works. Someone told me early on to visualize the perfect client and sit down and write on a piece of paper what are those qualities. And those seem to be the kind of people I attract. You know, who thunk it? If you're doing a project, construction project, think about what that project will look like when it's done. Kind of visualize that. And same for the folks you want to work with. So there's several teams in a construction process. There are the designers, and then there are the constructors. And then there's the owners, and then there's third-party inspections and suppliers, things like that. The architect has the ultimate authority in a contract if they're involved. Sometimes they're not even involved. But their job is very important as they put together the plans and the specifications, which is a project manual. On a big project, a project manual will describe what the terms and conditions are of the contract, what type of material they want in the project. Like, it'll specify, for example, if we're constructing this room, what type of cabinets we want to be in here, what type of countertop, what type of fixtures, plumbing fixtures, what kind of lighting, floor covering, everything. So it describes to the builder what to bid the project on, and then what to get for materials. It also will specify methods sometimes, not very often. Because a very key thing with construction when you hire a contractor, they are responsible for the means and methods of doing the work. As a third-party inspector, I have to be very careful not to direct them on how to do the work. That's very, very important. It's their responsibility and it's entirely up to them. They're supposed to be the experts. If they're not doing something that's, if they're doing something that is not right, is contrary to what the code requirements are, does not meet the specification requirements for the material, then it's the third party's job to step up and say, hey, you know, that's not working. And then they say, well, how should I do it? And I say, I don't know, figure it out. You're supposed to know that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to do it, because when somebody tells them how to do it, you shift the responsibility from them and liability onto you. So you never ever want to do that. Theoretically, the architects also are the ones that know the code requirements. The engineers are the ones that determine load paths, how to calculate the forces in the building, the compressive forces, the shear forces. You'll hear me say the word shear a few times. Shear is lateral loading on a building. There's compressive and then there's lateral, and that's what happens in an earthquake, because the buildings get subjected to a lot of lateral forces. And in the engineering field, there's various disciplines: structural, civil, geotechnical. The geotechs are the guys that go and look at the site and do soil surveys, determine what kind of soil there is so that they can properly calculate what kind of loads and how they want to support the building. The mechanical engineers, they're the ones that did run the calculations for all the mechanical devices such as heating, air conditioning. There's fire sprinkler engineer, electrical engineers, plumbing engineers, and energy, sustainable building energy folks. They put together what's called Title 24, and that is where they satisfy the building department by saying we're going to be within the limits of our energy code requirements in terms of what it takes to light, to heat, to cool, or whatever this building.
Now, yeah, like phase 1 and phase 2 surveys? Is it?
Yeah,
Which one are those?
Those would be under, I believe those would be under energy or, what am I trying to think of here? Or, contaminants, I'm
Okay.
thinking.
All right.
Lead and things like that. But, that's my best guess at this point. I can't really say for sure. So, those are two members of the design team. The owner representatives, that's somebody that as a property owner, if you're going to have some improvements done, you can hire a third-party person to come in and advocate for you to make sure that your interests are being protected. And a good owner representative will also remember to be fair and somewhat impartial, but not entirely, because you're there to take care of the owner.
Do they have certain qualifications?
Do they have
3
certain?
years experience.
I mean, how would I find an owner representative?
You know,
Should they be a licensed contractor?
Well, Usually they are. You could hire an architect to come in and act as your owner rep, a contractor. Hire someone like me who's a consultant. I have an AS degree in engineering, civil engineering.
Yeah.
But mostly I have just a ton of certifications for code knowledge.
And then would they be there like once a week or?
Well, it depends on how much it would take to cover the project, how big a project it is. They certainly want to be there during the critical phases, such as concrete placement, before things get covered up. Yeah.
These certifications, are they going to the Department of Real Estate?
No, the certifications are actually with a,
With board or commission?
it's, they call themselves the International Code Council. And they're the ones, the state of California has this Building Standards Commission, and they adopt the code every 3 years. The building code, the mechanical code, the plumbing code, and electrical code, accessibility code, and there's like 24 of them. There's just a ton of them.
There's 24 of them?
Yeah. When I first started doing inspections, the code book was this tall, about that wide, and maybe about that thick. Now, the code book is an 8.5 by 11 3-ring binder that's about yay thick. And that's just for one of them.
Oh,
Yeah. It's
going to drafting school, are we going to us having to read codes?
yeah, it's becoming a very technical, because there's so much technical progress these days.
Well, you want to make sure you do it right so you don't have a leading colored piece in San Francisco.
That's right, that's right. The builders are state licensed. I'm a licensed contractor, state licensed with the state contracting license board. And then the authority having jurisdiction, which is, for example, the city of San Leandro. They have their own building inspectors. They issue permits to do construction within their city limits, and their inspectors are certified code people. Their job is to go out and provide the periodic inspections that are necessary. And then, of course, the utility providers. Any questions on that? Okay.
I have a question, because I used to have property in Alameda and ask questions where I go, and lived in a few different cities. There used to be a backlog, like 400 or so in Alameda to get their blueprints. What's the backlog now? Because they've tried to streamline things?
Yeah, they streamlined it. It used to be that there was all these different permits issued. There'd be an electrical permit, there'd be a building permit, a plumbing permit. Well, they're all still issued separate permits, but now it's usually a one-stop shop. So you go in, and at the same counter, you can talk to the fire marshal about sprinklers. And then same place, you can get your building, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical. And more often than not, the jurisdictions are going with what they call combination inspectors. People that are certified in at least 4 different disciplines. So that when I go to look, for example, when I go to look at a house that's being framed and I'm there to do a frame inspection, I can also do the electrical and the mechanical inspection at the same time, which saves the property owner a ton of time and money. It just makes a lot more sense. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So, a lot of times owners go in and get the permit and declare themselves an owner builder. So in other words, they're not gonna hire a general contractor to do the work. They're gonna hire their own electricians, or they're gonna hire individual electrical contractors, plumbing contractors, all the different trades. And that puts the owner builder in the driver's seat. And they have a lot more control in doing that. For example, when I do things at my house, I act as my own owner builder. But that's because I'm familiar with it. I know the way it's supposed to be done, and that's my expertise. But there's pros and cons with it. And the pro is that if you hire a general contractor, they're going to bring in their own subcontractors, electricians, plumbers, and so forth. And then they will turn around and charge you, the owner, a markup on all the money those individual tradespeople charge you. So if the pro is that you can save 25 to 30% that you'd otherwise be paying the GC. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And it also gives you an opportunity to be in charge. And you can select the subs and control them, right? But at the same time, you're also going to be responsible for the project schedule. And a lot of times the schedule and timing is so important that if one trade is delayed in doing something, that can ripple down to everyone else. So that's part of the con. You don't really want to be in charge of the schedule. And then all the coordination of the subs. That's can sometimes be very difficult because people get busy and they want to be on another job. You also, you carry consequently the liability for the project in terms of payments to the subcontractors, payment for materials, which you would do anyway, but if you use a general contractor, they are carrying some of that liability. They're saying to you, these products have been paid for, and I'm going to give you a document with each pay request that verifies there are no liens on this project or on this property. And as I said earlier, your experience and technical knowledge is essential. So your tool bag as an owner, property owner, whether you're acting as an owner's rep, owner builder, or just someone who's hired a GC, is the project drawings, the specification, the construction contract. And the contract is really, really important. One of the things I'm amazed at is I've worked in a lot of public construction, and the contracts that are used in public works or in large private jobs are pretty well written. You go into the private sector, and if you want to hire a contractor, they say, here's my contract, right? And you'll notice that they don't have things like the mandating schedules, mandating weekly look-aheads. I'll talk to you a little bit about that. They don't put themselves on the hook for that kind of stuff. payment bonds, they don't talk about that. You know, it's pretty dismal, actually. So, you wanna be really careful when you sign a contract. And make sure you have some elements in there that I'll go over in a few minutes. Your project schedule is really, really an important tool. Jeanette, does this sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does this sound like what you're kind of looking for in terms of construction?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a master schedule that they give you at the very beginning, and then
Is that on Excel spreadsheet?
sometimes there's different programs. Primavera has one. Excel is perfectly suitable. I mean, you know, it's X and Y kind of deal. But that tells you, it breaks down the project into various tasks and tells of the duration of those tasks and in what sequence it's all going to be performed. The schedule of values is also a really, really important one, and I'll show you one of those further in. Correspondence, document, geez, I can't tell you how much that is important. RFIs are requests for information. Weekly meetings. Meet with your contractor every week. Communication is so key and critical. Have an agenda and keep notes. Change order requests and change orders. A request is saying, we've encountered an unforeseen condition, we are requesting a change order, which will compensate us in money and time to complete the work with this change of condition.